Hi, this is Freya from Otherworldly. Today I thought I would take a look at the latest product from LeLutka, which is the Axis HUD for making facial expressions. I checked this product out immediately when it came out a few weeks ago, and then I was on the fence for a while because while the HUD has a lot of customization options in terms of how you can move the bones in the face around, it did seem like it would be quite difficult to do so as well. My primary use for it would be for blog photos, of course, and I do know that while I have picked up a lot of these HUDs that have come out after Bento for adjusting hand animations, adjusting poses, and so on, it can be pretty tedious when you're setting up for a photo to do those final little tweaks. Sometimes you got the patience for it and sometimes you don't. So I wasn't sure how much I would end up using the HUD, which is why I hesitated for a while. But then I tried it again. I went back for another demo. The demo times out, I think, if you use it away from the LeLutka store for a longer period. I guess so that you can't really use it for photos and have it as a shortcut that way. You actually have to buy the full product, which is reasonable when it comes to scripting like this. So I went and got a new demo. I tried it again, and what the heck. I'll use it sometimes at least. I don't know that it's something I will use for every photo because I do like the very subtle natural expressions that LeLutka has on their heads, for example. Vista also has that. LightStar to a lesser degree. So being able to make my own expressions could definitely come in handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show it to you first on a LeLutka head, where I'll go through the HUD and mess around with it. And beware, I haven't really worked with it very much, so don't expect miracles. And then I will also see how well it works on a Vista and a LightStar head. I did see someone say on Plurk, I think, that it was difficult to get it to work with Catwa, which I don't know if, it's just something that you need to get used to, the fact that the bones are differently set. But I think because they use quite a different UV map, it would be difficult to get predictable results. But we are going to start by attaching the HUD at least. So you get in your package is you get a backup for saving expressions. If you make expressions, you can save them, and then you can actually make multiple copies of this, and you can, as it says, save and share. You can share these out. You could potentially make your own and give out to people and say, here's my favorite expressions, and so on. So we're going to start with the HUD straight up and down and see how it is. You get this tutorial when you first open it, which shows you what all the different buttons do. HUD skin confused me for a little bit, but basically showing you can have different skins for how the face appears. So you can have less realistic, like a silvery or a gold metal skin, and then you can have a couple of different skin tones. You can have the HUD be opaque or transparent, whichever you prefer. This is a piece that I really like. You can target yourself and 3 other avatars. So if you really like tweaking expressions, you can do it for a whole group. You can save. You simply use a touch and hold to save or overwrite if there's already something there. You can clear the HUD, and you can have automatic updates on. And then you go to the next page because there's a lot of functionality. Here is a mirror lock, which means that if you touch the bones on one side of the face, then it will have the same effect on the opposite side, except for the eyes, which are controlled separately, as it says. You have poses. You can clear everything and start fresh. You can refresh just the playing of animations so that you don't have a problem if anything hangs. You can wipe smaller groups. You can mirror a specific group. These bone rotation grids and the secondary dot grid, those are the tricksy sort of central parts of the HUD. The bone rotation grid is where you basically you can click and drag, or you can just click and click, but click and drag obviously allows you to move it around and see. And then there's a secondary grid for those that can be rotated on 3 axes. I don't actually know what the plural is, but anyway, this will be on the 3rd axis. You have group macros for some that can quickly move. If you want a similar expression on all sides, basically they'll match up like that. And that's about what you need to know of the functionalities. Then you click done, and here's your HUD. So I think right now it is set to transparent, and I prefer it to be opaque. And I'll show you a little quickly here how the skinning thing works. As you can see, you can have a couple of different versions if you want something more human, or if you just want a nice silvery base is what I think we will go with for this. And here we have a couple of pre-made expressions, and I'm actually going to go in and turn off my animations. Stop expressions. Actually, I have a mood on, I think is what I have. Yes, natural and subtle, my 2 favorites. So I'm making sure to stop all moods. And I'm going to zoom myself in a little bit, because this is all about the face. And to take note of the lovely, lovely direction jewelry from the plastic, which comes in a lot of different necklace lengths for male and female avatars, and with a HUD, so you can change the metal color and you can change the design of the compass. Very pretty. I thought I would just have something nice around my face while I'm doing a video that focuses on my face. So we're just going to do first a little quick test of the preloaded expressions. And here you can see that it indicates where everything is. So you could start from one of these and tweak as well. Here I think we have a nice little subtle smile. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and pose myself so I'm not constantly flitting around. There we are, that's better. The third one, a little bit of nose twitching and lip flipping. Just show a couple of different varieties here. Not strictly sure what that expression is supposed to be, but some of them here, as you see, you can control. These are functionalities that you could find in a non-bento HUD as well, controlling the head, controlling the neck, but obviously if you are primarily working with the facial expression, it is handy to have those right there. And that's a nice little raised eyebrow you got there. So I am going to reset all of those. I am going to set my eyes to stare straight ahead, which I probably could have done with the HUD as well. Yes, indeed. And then we're going to go and look at what we can make with it. I think we're going to start with the brows, because those are some points that are fairly easy to try and affect. So if we use this one, it's going to be the whole group. As you see, it lifts the whole brow, nice and simple like that. If we would prefer a little more control, we can drag this one down. And maybe we want to quirk this one up further. Starting to get a little concerned there, I think. And maybe we can even, well, if my brows do that, I think they're having a life of their own. So as you see, I'm just dragging it here, and that allows you to see the different grades basically. Or sometimes when you are looking at the face and dragging at the same time, you will find that you end up going like oops, and but as long as you haven't clicked anywhere else, it won't actually affect any others. So let me see where I want this one. I think something like that. Actually, maybe tone that down a little bit. We don't need to be quite so concerned. We could go in here and mirror it. Actually, I'm not strictly sure that mirrored so much as switched them. Seems to be the case actually. Oh, I suppose it would, because they would need to be set like that. Well, that's rather less interesting. So let's try and fiddle a little bit. Maybe this one is best left untouched. Just have the other one be a little bit of a concerned squiggle. Eyelids we have here on the sides, and they have a single sort of, it's just an up and down basically. So we could make ourselves look a little sleepy-eyed or rather widely awake. These dark circles here mark the defaults, so if you want to go back to a default for something, you just do that. Or of course you can just hit the reset button like that, and it will be on the default even if it doesn't show it. The eyes, of course, you can drag them like this. They are currently linked, and you can see directly where you position the eye, which is handy if you use something like the eye poser here. It kind of obviously approximates it, but you don't see directly on the eye how something is going to be. So being able to move it around within the eye socket itself is pretty handy. The lower lid like that can be this obviously mirrors some functionality that you have when you set up a shape, but you could do it in just expressions. And this is one of the things with the bento bones, as I understand it, is that some of them control both shape and animations, which is why some shapes will look a bit weird with some animations, and which is why you don't have control over the outer eye corners, because they're tied to the eyebrows, and a lot of people obviously want the eyebrows to be manipulated by expressions. Unfortunately, the way the LeLutka head is done, I can't use an expression here either to strengthen the like get the corner up or anything. As you see, it really only affects the brow. They haven't rigged this part to connect with that at all. I do wish they would do a head which had naturally more slanted eyes. So we've narrowed the eyes a little bit for a bit of a sultry look and a bit of an arch eyebrow. You can also do things with your ears. So have a little look-see at that as well. The ears are on a single one like this, which means that it's really just a subtle little wiggle. Let's see if maybe it shows better like that. As you see, you can push the ear outward, or you can push the ear backward. I don't know that a lot of people that involve, you know, ears very much in their expressions, so I don't see myself using that an awful lot. But maybe it would be useful. Certainly, I admit the LeLutka heads have ears that stick out a little bit, so I guess one could just angle them a bit and make them a little less noticeable. This is true. Then we have the nose, which also, this kind of comes into more shape fills, I would say. You could do obviously a little sort of wrinkling your nose at something. So let's see if we can have that happen here. Yes, somebody's obviously getting a little upset, I think. Would definitely be a sign with me that you should be a little careful what you're doing. There we go. And then the jaw is obviously significant for larger expressions. And again, here you see, if we move this back and forth, you can see how you would do a talking animation. There's a lot of that in just using the jawbone, or maybe somebody's biting the side of their cheek or something, and you get it a little misaligned that way. But maybe we'll just open the mouth a little bit. A little to one side. No, I think just opening the mouth like that. Head and neck I'll leave for last because that will start turning the head. This is the tongue. Let's see. Yeah, obviously you can't actually stick out the tongue unless you are opening your mouth a bit, but there might approximate a little tongue action. Lips, finally, very important for your expression. Now these are among the more complicated, like head and neck, in that you have the third axis as well. You have 3 controls for the upper lip, could be done by a macro. Same with the lower lip, could be done by a macro, and then you got the corners. So if we start here with the corner, you could pull it in, pull it out a little bit, go up, go down. Let's see where we'll land. Maybe we'll just have a little bit of a smirk there. See if we can improve that by also, that as you see works against the jaw pretty much by closing up the lips again. You could try and just open it in the middle, or you could open it a little bit like that. Ah, see, now we're starting to get a bit of a sneer going here. Probably possibly a slightly constipated sneer, but a bit of a sneer nevertheless. Do we want to do something about this side? Maybe we want to tuck that in. No, that's too much. Let's probably leave that normal. I wonder if it could be enhanced by. You see, there's a lot of trial and error. Definitely, you want to be prepared for that. A lot of trial and error. The lower lip, if we want to give that a corresponding angling. Now we're starting to get concerned rather than sneery, I think. Maybe something like that. this is tricky. And here you have your third bone. So as you see, that one will, what do we have here? Maybe so. No, or maybe not. You definitely have to figure out how the third axis interacts with the rest to be able to get quite the effect that you want. But I'm not entirely unhappy with my my first proper attempt at doing an expression. Very subtle fiddles, of course. As I said, I've just moved the jaw a little bit, a couple of fiddles on the eyebrows and eyes, and then a bit of tweaking. Learning to do the mouth is definitely going to be the crucial part. That's the one where you want to mess around the most. As you can see, rotating on the third axis here can have some very interesting effects. Here we've got something definitely a bit slanted. I wonder what happens if I pull that up again. Or maybe if I pull it in like that. I think I like it like that. Then we have the head, which again, you can drag around here and just give it a bit of a turn. And you can, of course, tilt it with the third axis as well. The neck, sometimes it's hard to tell if you've done a neck movement or a head movement. Because they do seem, there are some that get pretty close. The neck, as you can see, how tilts you rather more radically sideways. Let's go out and I'm not sure that the neck and the head bones actually, or the movement that I did here works with the rest of the expression. So I think I may, for saving purposes, I think I am going to reset at least the head. And yeah, maybe just keep the neck like that. And then what I do is I go to an empty slot here. Here, the white ones are the empty ones. I click, hold, and there we go. That's my my expression. Now here's another one that you want to keep an eye on. When you're recalling, do you want to clear everything, or do you want to build on an existing? That might be because otherwise you can use basically an expression as an addition. Let's say you already have a bit of an expression going, and then you load another part so that you could have an expression that controls the mouth, and then you load an additional part that controls the eyebrows, and that way those will be merged together. I believe there is also a setting. Let me see here. Oh, that's just for the I'm gonna go back here. There is a setting that when you save, it combines it with the existing animation already. There is a page on this. I'm just gonna hop over while you can stare at my face and see how that works. Yes, this is how clear all when recalling works. If you say yes, you will get exactly the facial expression you had the first time. You won't get any combinations. If you say no, it will only overwrite the things that you've already saved. So any bones that were already existing would remain animated. I don't think you will actually save down any of those additional, let's say that you had an animation from some other source that you were playing on your face and you wanted to add something from the LeLutka HUD. I don't think that you could then save and have it save the other animation as well. It couldn't capture it, is my understanding. I'll have to look a little more. But anyway, you have two options when you recall, at least. Combining or not combining, or overwriting or not overwriting is what I should say. So what I think I'm going to do now that I have this one saved is that I'm actually going to switch into another head and test this animation out on it. Alright, so now I am back with the Vista Zoe head, and it's a completely different shape. I tend to have one, set up for each head, and I don't really try and make them similar, at least not when the heads are so vastly different. So this is an entirely different look, of course, and the sliders have been configured in a very different way, which of course will affect the outcome as well. But I thought we would just try to play this expression that I just did on the LeLutka head and see where it takes us. And as you can see, there's a lot of things that are pretty similar in how it angles things. I'm going to skip the neck part here, and I'm going to reset that one just so that we can look at the expression from oh no, sorry, that's the mirroring. Well, good to see that that works as well. There are clearly some things that end up being a little stronger on this head. The rigging of the eyelids is different, so pulling the eye together produces too strong of an effect here. There's also the fact that Vista actually does allow you to get a bit of a slant to the eye by using the outer eye corner. So there is a little bit of a conflict here, I think. The lips, on the other hand, are quite close. I think the expression works very well there. But let's see what we can do about the eyes. We will open up these a bit more. And on this angling here, well, maybe we will also lift. See, that lifts it a little differently from what I would expect. So that might not be the option. Interesting, you see here how it kind of twists a little bit on this point. And here you can see that the outer eye corner is following along, which makes this more difficult to use. I would probably have to stay in the middle to avoid any extremes, but we can lift it a little bit from the middle at least. And then I'll see what happens if these other two bones you can do more with. They don't seem to affect the eye quite so much. So you could shape it a bit like that instead. But the outer bone here definitely has more of a problem with it's one of the drawbacks. I like having that flexibility of being able to move the outer eye corner, but with some animations it will basically cause a conflict. So you'd have to be a little more cautious about how you apply animations to that area. That might work though. And perhaps a little bit down like that to flatten the brow and strengthen the expression that way instead. I'm not seeing too much of an effect. The nose is a little more subtle, so maybe I'll widen it like that instead, and perhaps even pull down the middle of the nose. Oops, that's a little too pointy to the side. but that might work. The ears, oops, that's the eye, not the ear. Where do we have the ears? Here. Works well to flip your ears around as well. So with the Vista heads, obviously we've just tested Zoe here a little quickly. You'll have to be a little more careful. The expressions could get a little strong, especially around the eye. The lips, on the other hand, seem to play along quite well. Ah, there we go. A little bit of a snarl. Maybe take it down like that. That one just like that. Or this way, maybe. Yes. Now somebody's looking pretty annoyed. Ready to take a bite out of somebody with those nice big pearly teeth. I think this gives enough of a sense of the possibilities on the Zoe head. I would think you'd get similar results on other Vista heads. Zoe might be the one where I can tilt my eyes the most, so it's possible that some of the others will be less affected by the outermost bone here. But as I said, it's a trade-off that I'm happy to have on some heads for flexibility. So you just have to choose sometimes between shape or animations. And you can use other elements of the animations to offset as well if one method doesn't work. So I think I'll save this one too. As you see, it gets a different color each time, so you can try and remember which is which. And then we will go to a LightStar head. So the final range that I'm going to be testing a head from, because these are the main ones that I use for female heads, is LeLutka, it's Vista, and it's LightStar. I'm going to be testing the Maya head from LightStar, which I've already set up here with the no expression, and LightStar does not have on their head HUDs a set of idle animations like Vista and LeLutka. There is an additional kit that you can use, which has some subtle little animations, but they aren't as advanced as the LeLutka or the Vista, where I can rely on them to give me an interesting expression to capture in a photo. So LightStar is a good candidate for using this HUD on. How is it going to work? Well, let's first bring up the one that we loaded on the LeLutka head. Again, I'm going to take off the neck to just look straight ahead on the head and the expression. And as you can see, it's a nice subtle expression that doesn't distort anything. I do see that I could have a better fit on the eyes here. That can be a tricky point with the LightStar ones. They do not fit quite as well on the Mayfly as I can get the LeLutka and Vista to do. There are additional eyes included with the set as well, but that's a bit more limiting than the colors that I have for my Mayfly eyes. So, but anyway, I'm getting a nice subtle expression here. I'm also going to try the expression that we made on, or the adjusted expression that we made on the Vista head, which has a bit more of a stronger sneer, a bit more of a curve like that to the brow, and I think the LightStar handles it beautifully. Let's give some tests to the outer corner and see what that happens there. You will be moving the outer corner of the eye as well. That's again, LightStar allows a bit for that. But you could just go in one step and arch the brow like that, and then use this to affect the corner of the eye if you want to do that. It probably requires more fiddling in conjunction with your shape once you can move the outer corner. Again, the LeLutka locks it down entirely so that you will not have any scenarios where it looks bad, but on the other hand, you lose a bit of flexibility. I personally, I like when mesh heads have a reasonable amount of limits to them. There are some brands on the market where basically the whole range of the slider does something, and does something very obvious, but you can't really use the whole range because things start breaking down. Your teeth pop out through your lower jaw and all these things. There's no point of allowing that if the head doesn't support it. LeLutkas are very well rigged and very well tested and do not allow you to break the heads, pretty much. You can crank the sliders as far up as you want. You might get a very blocky head and not a very pretty head in some cases, but you will not be breaking anything. Your temples won't be caving in. Your tongue won't be showing through your cheek or whatever might be happening. Vista and LightStar. Vista goes a little further than LeLutka, I would say. Allows you a bigger range. And most of it is a workable range, but you can run into breakdowns. More or less the same with LightStar. The modeling is smoother for the most part on LeLutka and Vista. On the other hand, the price on LightStar is pretty unbeatable. And then, as I said, there are some brands out there that I have tried on a number of occasions, and they really break down in all sorts of weird ways. You basically have a very narrow range of functional shapes. So I like, for me, either LeLutka, but that can be a little limiting at times, or the Vista and the LightStar sort of hit the sweet spot. And you may have to fiddle a little bit with how you handle your outer corners, whether you need to fix something with your shape to be able to balance it. But for the most part, you can use these expressions pretty well. And you can get some nice little sneers going. Maybe I started smiling a bit too much in the middle of the sneer there. Let's pull that down again. Or was it down and in? No, I think like so. And a little bit like that. You could definitely see how this could get a little addictive once you decide to try and learn the various ways that things fit together. That is a strange one. These ones obviously can produce some very peculiar results if you're not paying attention. But that could work too. So that's a bit of a look at a couple of different heads with the Axis HUD from LeLutka, and at the same time a look at, I'm going to be giving you the details on what I was wearing in terms of the dress from Monol and this nice jewelry set from the plastic. That will all be in the blog post, and maybe I will spend some time, my copious spare time, to try and make a little set of fun expressions and see if there's anything worth sharing, maybe. So keep an eye out for that if it manifests itself, and I'll have a think about what I could do a video about next time. You know, if you have any suggestions, I wouldn't mind hearing them. I do like looking at these sort of gadgets. Mesh heads, of course. Well, a variety of things really. And so until then.